Alright gang, I appreciate y'all being here for this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle inspired video. Now today, I show off my Zelina Vega as April O'Neil figure custom and go through the steps as to how I did it. Now, in inspiration of today's video theme, I thought each and every one of us could represent one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle characters. Me? Well, I'm the leader of LJV, and I always lead with my heart. So I am your fearless leader, Leonardo. I'm even equipped with my katanas. Now let's get in to y'all's characters. Secretary Stase is the easygoing smart one of LJV. She is all of the brains, so she is Donatello. Co-Mayor Alexa is the independent tough one of the group, who is full of attitude and plays by her own rules. She is Raphael. And Queen Diva Marie is the party dudette of LumberJillville. She just wants to have fun. Therefore, she is Michelangelo. Oh, Queen Diva Marie, you're wearing your mask wrong.
Nope, I'm wearing it just right. I know you wanted me to wear this blindfold. 50 Shades of Orange, am I right? Ooh, Dexy is gonna be so into this.
Oh my goodness, that is not a blindfold. Oh, no. Spin that thing around. I know I cut some eye holes in there for you. And that leads me to Dexy, who is Casey Jones, because Dexy just really wanted to wear a hockey mask.
Well, where are the two bumbling security robots of LJV?
You mean the Robo-Taminas? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they didn't like the character outfits I picked out for them.
Oh, here they come.
Oh.
We can't hear you. Speak up.
Ooh, right. Hey gang, they're foot soldiers. I just seem to have forgot to cut little holes in their masks so we could hear them talk. Yeah, I can't understand them.
Well, this is awkward. Who wants to order a pizza and get this party started? Party girl, the party one. Party girl, the party girl, the party one. And the party girl, and the party one. And the party girl.
Hey y'all, welcome to LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here, and welcome to today's first-of-a-kind video like this in LumberJillville, where I take you through a step-by-step process as to how I made my Zelina Vega as April O'Neil wrestling figure custom. Now, since WWE and Mattel have not announced any women in the upcoming TMNT WWE crossover line, I figured who better than me and LumberJillville to try to make a female that would be included in that line that would match the rest of the Ninja Turtle WWE figures. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I am a very novice figure customizer. I've done a few in the past that I think turned out well, and each one of those times I've recorded it and tried to film the whole process, and it was a disaster. And I didn't feel comfortable posting it on the channel. So today's video, I'm going to go step by step through the process that I did to get to the final product, which I'm very happy with. And there are some amazing women's wrestling figure customizers alone on Instagram. I'm not one of them, but I'm trying my best. And when I was trying to prepare for this figure custom, I scoured YouTube trying to find videos to kind of hold my hand and give me the best ways to choose parts, to disassemble, to reassemble, to paint, to prevent any wear. And there were a number of videos that I watched that were very helpful, but there wasn't any single video that kind of took me through the process step by step. So I'm hoping today I can do that. Now, is this way the best way, the most efficient way? I'm sure it's not. But like I said, I'm happy with the final product, and, I'll take you through step by step as to how I did it, how I got from nothing to this figure, and hopefully it inspires y'all out there if you want to do a wrestling figure custom. And if you do, I would love to see what they look like and what finished products you have, because I bet you can do a way better job than Mayor Aaron, I guarantee it. But as I mentioned, I really like how this turned out, so let's get started with the first step of this process. April O'Neil. That is the TMNT female character that I wanted to see Mattel include in the WWE TMNT mashup line coming out, and in the first 2 waves they didn't show any, and that's very frustrating. Not only is April very toyetic, but she is a strong female lead character, plays such a vital role in the Ninja Turtle stories, so it's very frustrating that we didn't see that, but that's why I wanted to make my own WWE wrestler dressed as April O'Neil. Now in front of us, you can see I chose Zelina Vega. However, I know I was one of them that when they first released the first 2 waves, and there wasn't a female included, a lot of people, including myself, were saying, you missed an opportunity by not choosing Becky Lynch as April. That would have been perfect. Becky as April would have been awesome. And I still might do that custom in the future. I might. But I wanted to go a different, more unique route because I thought about it. And Zelina does a lot of cosplay. She's very much into science fiction, into cosplaying, in her ring attire, out of ring attire. And I thought if there's anyone on the roster, any female on the roster that's going to cosplay as April O'Neil, it's going to be Zelina. So I wanted to do something a little different, and that's why I chose Zelina. But I still might do a Becky Lynch April custom in the future. So I chose Zelina. Now I wanted to do it in elite form. Truth being told, it is easier to do customs in basic form because there's less articulation, less you have to worry about paint getting in the articulation cracks and all of that. I will just say that, but I wanted to do an Elite. So I have Elite 99 on the left, and I have Elite 84 on the right. So which one did I think was better for this? I was just looking over, and I thought about swapping the head on the Elite 99 on the left, with that Elite 84 on the right, but I wasn't too sure because I thought that this attire on the Elite 99 really gave me a lot to work with, to where maybe I could add some greens in there on the top. It's nice that the base color is white on that attire because then you don't have to use as much primer, as much paint to really make the color stand out, whereas over here, it's a red. Red could get messy to work with. So I just decided to go with this one. And yes, I did want the more articulation in the elbows, which did pose problems later. We'll get to that. But that's why I chose the Zelina. And also the little bit of the red in the hair kind of inspired me to pursue this one. So this is why I went with this Zelina right here. Alright, so how was I going to make this figure look like April O'Neil? She's known for her jumpsuit, long sleeves, rolled up, long pants, all white boots. So I was looking at my collection and I came across some things that I noticed that might be cool additions to the Zelina to add to the effect. So first off, we have this Elite Scarlet figure. And what I noticed is she has these little cuffs that are removable. And I thought, okay, I could take those off of her, push them up on Zelina's forearm, and give it the look of a rolled up shirt sleeve. So I removed these from another Scarlet that I had and used that for the sleeves. Now, as far as the jumpsuit goes, I knew that wasn't really a possibility. I wanted to add a little Zelina flavor to it, so I wanted to give a look of a long sleeve jacket. To do that, I had an extra, and I'll show you, I actually got a bunch of random, horribly shaped women's wrestling figures that had parts and pieces that I used. I'll show them next. But this upper jacket I saw was removable on this horrific, terrifying, extremely terrifying Lana figure, and I used that extra jacket I had to put on the top. So the appearance of the jacket could be taken care of. Now, I want to do something different about her hair. When I looked at pictures of Zelina on Instagram, when she had a dark red color to her hair, she had little buns on top. So I had an extra Alexa Bliss Ultimate head that had these buns on top. Now, I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but I just got some scissors. I trimmed off this extra hair hanging down, got right under those knots and snapped them off. And as you can see, they come off pretty cleanly here. They really did. And then I glued them to the top of her hair. Now, once I did that, I did remove the head, and then that's what caused me to get to the next part here. All right, so real quick, this was the bag of it was these 4 women's wrestling figures, just as you see them, that were included in this bag at 2nd and Charles for like $7. And it's a very pitiful, sad collection of wrestling figures. So yes, this Lana did have her jacket, and that's what I removed for the Zelina, but her skirt was actually applied to this Renee Young, which is an interesting swap there. Now, as far as this Brie Bella, she plays no role in this video. She really did nothing to help with this custom. She's in bad shape. I'm sorry, Brie, but yeah, you also blend in with the background. And this Alicia Fox, let's take a moment of silence on this Alicia Fox. It was already broke when I got her, but I tested a lot of paint on her. I tested a lot of ways to get, the joints off with the boiling water and so on. So yeah, let's take a minute and remember Alicia. All right, now we got that done. Let's move to the next part. So next up, we have disassembly. I wanted to take this figure apart and separate it enough so I can paint each part kind of individually. So first off, the head. Pops right off, no issue. But to get the arms off and to get the legs off, you have to boil water, okay? Right here. Now, you could use a hot air gun or even a hair dryer. I like the boiling water method, but I'm wearing gloves because it's very dangerous. Kids, don't try this at home. Ask your parents, whatever. So I get a little water, put it in a glass pitcher. Gonna do about 2 minutes. Hit start. Alright, time's up. So as you can see, the water is boiling. Got my safety gloves on. Now I'm going to remove the arms first, okay? Now if you can see, right here at the end of the deltoid there is where I want to dip it in the water. So I usually do one arm at a time, just to be careful. So you hold it in there, some say 30 seconds. You hold it in there about 20 seconds, it'll come right off. So the heat causes the plastic to expand, and that allows us to safely but surely snap off the arm. Now, I did that to both arms, and I also did it down at this boot joint because I wanted these boots to be a solid white. So I took those off, set them to the side. So I have the figure disassembled. The next step is I put it out in the garage, and the parts that I want painted, I leave exposed. The parts I don't want painted, I cover up with painter's tape. Next up, I wanted to use a primer. Now, it's so important to use a primer on your figure. I went with the spray paint route. Now, I will say, I like using the spray paint, but you got to be very careful with it because it's very toxic. Very strong fumes come from it, so make sure you do it out in your garage with the door open or outside. Don't do it inside. Now, I use this Rust-Oleum flat white primer because it's good to have a white base coat to really make the color stand out. So what I did is I made sure all the parts that I didn't want painted were covered with the tape. Then I sprayed it all with this primer. Let it dry about a half hour, and then I sprayed it again, trying to get areas that I wasn't able to get before, so that everything that I was going to paint yellow was now covered in white. Then I let it dry overnight, and the next morning I use this yellow Krylon Fusion all-in-one paint primer. Now, there are tons of acrylic-based paints that you can hand paint. There's different ways to paint it. This is just my method that I did today. I'm not saying it's the best by any means. There's actually different acrylic paints that you can attach to like a gun, like a spray kind of spout type thing, and that's like professional grade job. But here in LumberJillville, we are not professional grade, right? So I use that primer, let it dry overnight. Then I use the yellow, put on a nice coat, let it dry for about an hour actually, put on another coat, and I actually put quite a few coats on. Now, in between the time that I was spraying both the primer and this yellow coat on, I worked with the head. So I know this looks terrifying, but I had this set up inside on my kitchen counter. In between paint coats and whatnot, I worked on the head. So here's what I did. I used Queen Zelina's staff here, her scepter, if you will, and used a little clothespin there. And that way it kind of had a base to work with. Now, as I mentioned, I did cut the buns off of this Alexa Bliss head sculpt here. And I glued the buns on the top of the head, which I'll show you here. And once I had those glued on the top of the head, I actually did not use a primer on this paint because I wanted it to look like a more natural red. So what I did is I started off making it all black. So even though it was nice that it started out with red roots at the top here, I wanted it to be a more maroon type red. So I painted all of it black on top there, including the little buns. And then once that dried, what I did was I used like a dark red paint, and I didn't make it so it was just one tone of red. And as you can see on this hair sculpt here, there's black that shows through, but it looks a little more realistic. That way you can kind of see the undercolor and the root colors, and I think it worked really well. Now I did add the little pink highlights in the front just as a little addition of flavor, if you will. So I did add a little pink in the front, but again, I just painted it on there. And like I said, I went back and forth between working on the head and working on painting the body, but it gave me something to do at all times, so that was really good. Now on to the next part. So after I had the head all painted, the body parts all painted, I brought them inside, and I needed to find a way to kind of seal the paint in. So some of my customs in the past, after I painted them, brought them in, they're real smudgy, real sticky, and that's an issue. So there's a way to seal it that's very inexpensive and really effective. And what I use is this Mod Podge. There's matte and gloss finish. It's almost like a glue. It goes on white, but it does dry clear. Now for the hair, when I was done with the hair, I wanted to use the matte finish. I didn't want the hair to look real wet. So I used the matte finish Mod Podge, put a layer on, let it dry, put another layer on, and that was really good at protecting it from rubbing off and from smearing anything like that. Now as far as the suit goes, I wanted the suit to be shiny. I wanted it to be glossy. I wanted it to look almost leather. So I went with the gloss finish Mod Podge. And what I did here is, again, I applied a coat to all the different pieces that I painted, let it dry, applied another coat, and this stuff, as I mentioned, it goes on white, so don't panic. Just make sure you distribute it evenly when you're applying it, and once it dries, it really does put a nice coat on top and protects the figure. And after you let that sealant dry, I mean, really it takes, you could give it up to a couple weeks for it to be fully dry, but I gave it a couple days. I let that outer sealer Mod Podge dry, gave it a couple days, and then I was ready for reassembly. Now to reassemble, it's just like when you disassembled. Boil again. Alright, so the final step, once you put the figure back together, is just touching it up. Trying to get rid of all the extra paint, the imperfections, try to make it look cleaner. I'll be honest, that's something I need to do and work a little more on this figure, but I just wanted to be real with y'all and show you how this figure looked when I finished it. I'm happy with it. I'm almost afraid to clean it up too much because I'm afraid I'll mess something up, right? But before we get to the touch-up section here, I did want to put a note and say that the only parts that I spray painted were the pants. So what I did is I had the torso covered up. I had the legs and this kind of crotch piece there out in the garage, and then I had the arms out in the garage and this yellow jacket out in the garage, and that's what I spray painted with the primer and then also the yellow spray paint. And what I did is I painted this little chest piece with a green acrylic paint. Now, before I applied the green, it is a white base, which was nice, but there was red accents in it before. So I painted it with a couple layers of the white. After I painted it with a couple layers of the white and let it dry, then I did a couple of layers of the green, and then of course I sealed it with the Mod Podge, and I used a little bit of a lighter green for a couple little accents there, and I think it turned out nicely. Now I did use the shiny Mod Podge, which makes it look a little bit like leather, so I liked how that turned out, but that is what I did with the underside. I didn't want y'all to think I spray painted that. Also with the hair, I did hand paint the hair using these nice little apple barrel paints from Walmart. They are so cheap. They're like less than $1 each, and they're acrylic paints, and they work really, really well. I did see that in a bunch of videos online. So as you can see here, the hair turned out very nice. It has a nice realistic look to it. See some black underneath the red. The pink highlights in the front really stand out. So I did hand paint some of this, I should say that. The boots I also hand painted here, and they were kind of separate than the pants. I had them removed, the boiling method, took the boots off, painted them with a primer, painted them with white, and then sealed them off. So to do the touch-up parts, there are some things that are very important. I think even if you use the spray paint method, it is important to have these apple barrel or these acrylic-based paints just to use a paintbrush and cover up any spots. Because let me tell you, from experience, I had a couple disasters. One of them was that I had everything painted and I had the hands out. When I boiled the hands or the arms to put the hands back in, all of this paint on the forearm that I was holding to put the hand in, it all smudged and smeared and crumpled up. And hours of paint, hours of that sealer was just shredded. I mean, it looked like it got chewed up by a dog. However, because it's supposed to simulate these long sleeves, it kind of worked to my benefit. So you can see what I mean, how it's kind of rough around the shirt sleeve. There's little wrinkles and folds. And that wasn't intentional, y'all. That was smooth before, but because I was holding it, putting the hands on, it just got real messy and sticky. So after that happened, what I did is I used this yellow, used a paintbrush, and just put a couple layers of that on. So just to touch it up, and then of course I sealed it with the Mod Podge. The waistband, I used a thin white piece of electrical tape that I stretched and then super glued a little spot on there. I think that worked really well for the belt. And then, yeah, these legs are spray painted from the garage. Now, the thing is, this doesn't have the best articulation. Like, you can still move it a little bit, but you're going to see it's going to crack a little bit at the paint seams. So there are ways to really get in between the cracks. You could get like a sander and sand down the joints. That's a real good way to do it. But I like how this turned out because she's supposed to be wearing a jacket, dang it. And the jacket sleeves actually look a lot more lifelike than if it was just painted straight on the skin. So I liked how it turned out, even if it was by mistake. Now, as you can see, there is some paint on her forearm here that needs to be removed. There's some paint in her midsection. Now, the best way that I found to do it is to just scratch it off with your nail. If you can't get it off with your nail, you need to use something that's very dangerous, and that's acetone. Now, I say it's dangerous because this can eat away plastic. A lot of customizers do not use acetone, but hey, I say, why not? So what I would do is get a toothpick, put a little acetone on the toothpick, and then find the little spots that are out there, and then just scrub it, and then wash it with water right away. Because as I mentioned, this acetone, it's nail polish remover, right? That's basically what it is. But it is meant to remove paint. But with that being said, the underpaint of the figure is in jeopardy if you use too much acetone or if you don't rinse it off right away. It can really eat the paint. I have that example on some of my previous customs where I used too much acetone. It just grinded away the paint. So you got to be real delicate with it, and this should be a last resort option to use to get this extra paint off. So as you can see on my Zelina, there's still some paint smudge on her forearm. I haven't got to the point where I'm going to use acetone on it because I'm afraid it's going to stain the forearm, make it real pale. As I mentioned, I like how it is as it is, so I'm not too worried about it. So now that I had the figure done, you know, it's touched up for the most part. I wanted to add some accessories, so I took this microphone, put a pink piece of tape around it, and then this camcorder that I had from some Elite, who knows. So I put the camcorder in her right hand. Boom. As I break her thumb. And then I put the microphone in her left hand. And there we have it. We have Zelina Vega as April O'Neil. Alright, so that's how I made my Zelina Vega as April O'Neil WWE TMNT Wrestling Figure Custom. Now, I know I didn't do a step-by-step visual process and take you through it, but as I said, it is very messy that way. It's very hard to do. Maybe next custom I'll do that if you guys want me to. But I just thought this would be a fun video to kind of show you the process that I did, kind of explain it, and then show you the finished product. Now, all of you out there that have watched this video, I appreciate you. I'm always nervous putting up content on the channel that's not a women's wrestling figure review. That's my passion. That's what I love to do. I have so much fun, and that's my comfort zone. This video is outside of my comfort bubble, and I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest. But either way, I hope you enjoyed it. And even though it's not a perfect custom, I know that. I hope you can appreciate it and enjoy it. And I hope you had fun watching this video. So as I mentioned, if you out there are inspired to make a figure custom, or you can use any part of this video as a guide, let me know what you make. I would love to see it. But thanks for watching, and have a great night, y'all.